live stream.
Oh, it's saying it's streaming live.
Okay, and we are live. Welcome, viewers. I have an important question for you tonight. If you were to take an honest look at your relationships, all of the most significant ones, how would you rate the quality of your relationships overall? How would you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10? With 1 being totally disconnected, conflicted, frustrating, and unfulfilling, and 10 being as joyful, connected, harmonious, and fulfilling as possible. This is an important exercise in self-reflection, so take a moment. Probably some of your relationships will be up there around an 8, and others may be down around a 4, with some outliers on either end of the scale for you. If it makes you a little bit uncomfortable to really examine the quality of your relationships, you are really going to want to stick around and listen, because my guest tonight is the amazing Fari, a transformational relationship coach who is joining us to share her insights and wisdom about what it takes to create 10 out of 10 relationships. So welcome, Fari. And before I introduce Fari in more detail, I'll take just a brief moment to welcome you to Reclaim Your Radiance. This is my weekly video show where we explore how to unravel and heal the limiting patterns that keep us stuck living small and disconnected from our true radiance. Here we will learn how to overcome obstacles and shine the light of our love into the world. My name is Melanie Starr, and I'm a life coach, master EFT practitioner, Reiki master, and yoga teacher with more than 20 years experience in health and wellness. I'm the creator of the Holistic Divorce Healing Method and a lifelong learner in the realm of holistic health and healing. Tonight, I am delighted to welcome Fari, and I want to know if I'm saying this right, Fari. You wanted to tell us how we say your name properly?
Gonzac.
Or Fari Transformation, as she's known on social media, and you'll find her under Fari Transformation on all across platforms, right?
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, awesome. So in pursuit of her freedom, Fari left her home country of Iran at the age of 21 to make her home in England. She was not readily accepted in the UK of those times and endured terrible harassment. She threw herself into exercise and fitness to help her deal with the emotional pain of being a stranger in a strange land, and also to process the pain of growing up in an angry household in Iran. Eventually, she became a trainer, and after she moved to Los Angeles, a sought-after, highly successful personal trainer and health and wellness coach. And now she is a relationship coach for all kinds of relationships, whether they be intimate, family, or work relationships. So Fari, I have been meaning to ask, what inspired you or led you to make the shift from health and wellness coaching to love and relationship coaching? It's a bit of a leap. So I just, to start off with, how did that transpire?
First of all, thank you for having me here. It's wonderful to be with you. And it really wasn't such shift as I didn't even realize that I was coaching people through their traumas with themselves, their agony and frustration with themselves in life, as I was working their muscles and their core as their trainer. And my goodness, it was between the martial art and yoga and the Pilates and swimming. And then they open up to you and they start talking. And then it was actually there without me knowing that it was there. And I had a name to it as a relationship coach. I had no idea that I was actually what I was feeding them as an idea, as a creation of themselves, was something that it was to do with their, not just health and wellness, and then again, health and wellness and having a relationship with their head and heart together, because everybody lives in the head. And it was like kind of my message in that, bring these two together and then see how much life will shift and will change. And as I went along, I just realized that this is not just the health and wellness. And actually, one of my fabulous mentors was the one that led me to this understanding that I have been a relationship coach, and it's not just health and wellness.
Right. So you're just starting with that fundamental relationship of people with themselves.
Always.
So was it a
always.
big leap to go from that to coaching people with family relationships and in couples? Because
No,
I'm assuming that
no,
you also help people in terms of family relationships and maybe
correct.
even work relationships.
No, no, it was no shift in there because all along, think about it. When you go and have your hair cut done and you go to a same person and you see them 6 weeks or 8 weeks and say, hey, how are you doing? How's life doing? Now think about it. These people were coming to me 2, 3 times a week. It wasn't,
Right.
you see? So
Very
when they
close.
see
Very
you
close.
two or
Wow.
3 times a week, they see me more than they see their own siblings. And then the conversation comes, oh, yeah, this is what my child said. This is my brother did. What is my mother did. This is what my wife is doing. My husband is doing. And the
Right.
conversation comes along. And I, coming from such a big family and coming from so much of a dysfunctionality in my family and my upbringing, it was like, it was no brainer for me at all to want to tell people what to do because I lived it. I run away from it.
Right.
So I wanted to find my freedom and my happiness. And as I was living it, I
Right.
was just sharing what life had for me up to then. So it was kind of like a creation of what the reality was there for me, but create something new for those people that I was training.
Right. 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 So it just emerged naturally.
Totally naturally. And that's why
Totally.
I say
Yeah.
I have a certification from Tony Robbins and Chloe
Right.
Madanis and this and Byron Katie and all of that.
Sure.
But no certification is as big as the PhD that I have from the University of Life,
The
the
University
agony
of
and
Life.
the
Yeah.
frustration.
My father used to call it the School of Hard Knocks.
There we go. Exactly the same
Yeah.
thing.
I have one of those PhDs too.
Right.
They're the
Actually,
best.
my husband and I in the middle of making this PhD that it says PhD from the University of Life. My husband has got a beautiful handwriting, and we're going to frame it and we're going to put it on top of all my certification up on the wall in my office.
Right. Well, you don't need university when you have the universe teaching you.
Well, that's, I should say,
Right.
from the universe, but it doesn't rhyme well and pretty. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It has to be pretty.
Yep. 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 So, and so do you work primarily with couples? Is that sort of how it has transpired or
Uh, it
evolved
was
in your coaching?
it was always with the individual that I was
Okay.
coaching them, that
Okay.
it was anything that anybody needed, mostly with themselves.
Okay.
And then as it came about that, oh, what do I do? What do I say? Where do I go? It was wonderful to do the individual because if the individual find out where they are lacking that respect for themselves, I don't need to see the partner just yet. I
Right.
need to see that individual. And then when the
Right.
individual finds out more about themselves, and then they want me to get between the two of them, no problem, of course. But where are we all standing all by ourselves is something that it needs to be um, brought up to people's attention.
This is really important.
Yeah,
Especially so, you know, I have some clients who are younger divorce clients, and because I'm a divorce coach, as you know, among other things. And the ones who married young, like there's a lot of them. I end up working with a lot of women who are around my age, who similar to me, marry very young. And when you marry in your early 20s, you haven't fully formed your own identity yet necessarily. And you can go literally from your family to your marriage and have had
exactly.
very little time to even figure out who you are. And you go from sort of one construct to another without ever actually having a sense of what you want and how you
Mhm.
even could relate to somebody if you were actually had a chance to develop into yourself.
Mhm.
So yes, I see where you're coming from there. So I do want to talk about what you think people need to do to foster these like really connected, really joyful, satisfying, fulfilling relationships. But first, I wanted to talk about some of the big things that are the big destroyers in relationship, because I listened to an interview that you did previously on another podcast, and this came up in your discussion about about your past, and they were two big themes that I think of as the real spoilers in relationships, and that would be anger. You grew up in a family where you said there was a lot of anger in the household, and I'm not sure what, who was angry at who, or if everyone was angry at everybody, if it was just in the air, or if it was just in the culture, even wider than the family. And in that interview, you also talked about how when you got to England, you were heavily into fitness and exercising, and it became to the point where it wasn't just an activity or something to channel your energy or make yourself healthier. It had become more obsessive and more like an addiction, to the point that you were overdoing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to, just sort of suss these two themes out in terms of the impact that they have on relationships from what you've seen.
Well, when you think about it, when you're raised in a place that I was raised in a family with a very angry father, much, much, much older than my mother,
Okay.
and a massive age difference. And I must clarify that that is not a cultural thing. That doesn't happen in Iran all the time. It was just very odd that my parents got married with such a huge age difference. And my dad was really ready to become a grandfather. And he became a father of, then after that, six more kids, And he was tired, he was frustrated. My parents didn't have a good relationship. My mother wanted to play with kids as her playmates, but then she had to remember that she's their mother. So it was very hard to be in that. And once you raise, when somebody is in the house, the head of the house, as they call it, is angry, what comes to the house constantly and lives there is the anger, is the frustration. We're so fearful of my father. Oh my God, we can't say anything. Oh my God, he's going to say, he's going to get back.
Anxiety.
Oh, he's going to beat us up. Oh my God, he's going to be this and that. And we were raised in this frustration and tantrum and be so afraid
Sure.
that,
Anxious.
I mean, the anxiety
Yeah.
was so
Yeah.
humongous for
Yeah.
every single one of us that it made us all kind of like don't like each other.
Right. Well, everyone
And
would
we're
contract. Everyone would
yeah,
contract
and
in their nervous system, and then you're not open to connect with anybody.
yeah, and we were all the time on this like, oh, now what? Now what's
Right.
going to happen? And
Right.
it was so intense that I think I was, God, I don't remember, 16 or 17 years old, that my father beat the crap out of me and slapped me like not once, not twice. Like he kept on slapping me left and right on my face. And he was a very powerful man. And he was going this way and that way and hitting me like that. And I just stood and said, okay, hit me, whatever you want. But like, and with my arms folded in front of me. But it hurt so bad. And my nose started bleeding and he wouldn't stop. And then I yelled and called my mother. She came and she saved me, and she like pushed him to the side, and it goes, "Oh, I didn't find her in the street, this is your spam." And it goes, "I brought her to this world, I'm going to take her out of this world if she's not going to follow my orders," whatever
Right.
it was. And I remember that I was on my period too, and that was the day that I said, I will leave Iran. The only way I can do it is just to leave Iran to become who I am. So this stayed with me. I am this angry person. I leave Iran, go to England, and what you do in your suitcase is your clothes and your anger. And you never
Your
leave
anger,
the
you took
anger.
it with you. You couldn't just
It's
leave it home.
I didn't know how to.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, I didn't know how to.
it was
Yeah,
right in your nervous system, built in.
absolutely. It
Yeah.
becomes part of you.
It becomes part.
Whatever they feed you
Yeah.
when you're younger, when you're older,
Sure.
it becomes part of you. And
It's your
especially,
emotional, it becomes part of your emotional body, your emotional makeup, your modus operandi. Yeah.
right. And especially when you're being raised and they tell you, oh, you're good for nothing. You
Oh,
never
your
make it.
self-esteem is just toosh. So
There
then
was
you may
no
not even feel
self-esteem.
like you're
What was
worthy.
it? Hmm?
So then you may not even feel like you're worthy of good love, right? You then end up accepting maybe crumbs. I certainly see this in my client base,
Yeah,
of feeling unworthy and accepting crumbs, and ending up in pretty abusive marriages
exactly.
in many
Mhm.
cases. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what when you just being told you're never gonna measure up to be anything. You're never gonna make it. Oh, you're such a loser. Versus you are a wonderful person, you're a great kid, you're so smart, you know.
Yeah.
And when you hear all of that, all I was doing, I was eating my emotion and I was so
Oh,
fat.
you were,
I
yeah,
was huge.
you were
And
eating for soothing. This was your
mhm,
regulation mechanism.
correct.
Eat. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And so that kind of plays into the next theme a little bit because both the soothing, eating to soothe, but then you kind of flip that to fitness to soothe.
Correct. I always wanted, my father was a very strong an athlete of his own time. And I really wanted to do many things, but they wouldn't let me. It was just every time I said to mom, people around me, they were playing tennis and I wanted to go and play tennis. And I said, Mom, I want to go and play tennis. He goes, What? You're going to play tennis and you're going to lose your virginity? No way, you know.
Wow, I don't see the connection.
Thinking that I'm going to be out there and
Oh, your short skirt.
and it's a Muslim country, and the idea was that we were not Muslim like what you see in the world today. It was just the name of it, but still the
Yeah.
tradition was that you don't do that. And my high school called my mom and said, Fari is excellent in volleyball. You should let her go to volleyball. And she goes, absolutely not. I cannot let her go and do something that I lose control over her.
Oh my. No
So
wonder you laugh. And just
and
in time, and
that's
just in time
when,
too,
yeah,
right?
I just had to wait until I'm turning 21.
Yeah.
So I don't have their permission to have my passport issued. So I had papers and everything written and filled up. And the day I turned 21, I applied for my passport. And I think it was about 3, 4 months later that it came. And when it came, my cousin was visiting Iran. She used to live in London at that time. And she goes, Look, I'm going to come to Iran, spend the holidays, and let's go back together. So you can just say you're going with me. And I went and I knew I'm going to go. I was a very, very heavy kid at the age of 21. And I said, I didn't tell him. I said, I'll see you in a couple of weeks, but I knew I will never go back. And I never went back.
You never went back.
But
You
I
didn't let you
thought
know.
my life is going to be blossom. I'm going to have a fabulous life. The world to the heaven is open. Little did I know, soon after I left, the revolution happened in Iran. And then we became, everybody from the Iran and the Middle East was like, you're no good. You go back to your country. You know, all of that
And
started.
that's where you endured this harassment that was so terrible. And then
Mhm.
that would only fuel your anger.
Even more, and the pain in
Yeah.
my body was bad. And I was 27 years old that I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia,
Oh, okay.
and the result of all those traumas and
Yeah.
all that
Me too. Almost the
failure.
same age,
Yeah,
fibromyalgia.
yeah.
Different reasons, but yeah. Wow, wow. And then so how, you've obviously healed your anger and you have healed your addiction to fitness. I mean, you did that for a long time. You hurt yourself, but you also attained a black belt. Was it in Taibo or
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo?
But
Okay.
Taekwondo was where I got the black belt. But what I was big and huge in LA with the guy who created this thing, this fitness called Taibo, and
I
his
remember
name
the
is,
craze. Yeah.
yeah, Billy
Big deal.
Blanks, a big, huge African American guy. And I was one of his girls, so I'm in the videos with him all the time.
Oh,
So
fun. Okay.
yeah, so but I didn't look like this. I had a
Oh,
lot of black hair to my
your
shoulder.
hair was not beautiful silver.
Oh, you're sweet. Yeah, it was a lot of black hair, a ton of it, 4 times more than this. And by then I was a size 4, you know,
Right.
and it was a lot of, but fitness became my drug of choice.
Right.
So I never had, because I wanted to do that in Iran and they wouldn't let me.
Right.
So when I went to England, I thought I am going to just continue working out, which I
The
did.
pendulum swung the other way.
Correct. Correct.
Right. So, but how were you able to heal your anger and your addiction? And then, how do you help? Because I'm assuming, or tell me if I'm wrong, that some of the work that you do with clients to improve their relationships with themselves and the people they love is helping them heal their anger and addictions.
90% of it, not some of it.
90%. Just a
And
little.
I'm being actually kind. I was going to say 100% of it,
Right.
because it doesn't matter what happens to us in life.
Right. It doesn't.
Where are we emotionally,
Yeah.
mentally, physically to allow what has happened to take us down? Or what I call it, find the diamond in it and start appreciating it.
Look for something to appreciate every
Right,
day. That became my motto. That's how I got through the darkest days.
right.
Find something to be happy about. And
Mhm.
yes.
Absolutely.
So is that your, what is, so for people to create amazing relationships and to heal all of that, like how did you heal from your anger?
A ton of work. I mean, it
Ton
wasn't
of work. Yeah.
overnight, and it still
Yeah.
continues, but definitely fitness was one of those that helped me
Yes.
to not to commit suicide, not to, because I had many times I had that thought, committing suicide. I had a thought of becoming a prostitute. I had the idea of, because I wanted to get revenge from the world, from all the men, and I just was going through all these roller coaster thoughts were coming into my head. I could never become a drug addict or alcoholic because I was so much involved into fitness. I didn't know how to. I don't think, I'm not sure, but I don't think I even drank alcohol until I was like probably 26 or 27. I didn't have the need for it, you know. The streets of London were perfectly wide and open, and the parks were amazing. And I'd be going jogging, and I was playing massive amount of tennis and squash and all of that. And it was really healing me, not healing me, helping me to stay steady. But the anger, the minute it would come out, which was 5 times an hour, I would be doing some kind of a fitness, and it would be helpful, but not to say that no one did see my anger. Ton of people tasted my anger. Ton of people tasted my, because of my anger, I became a people pleaser massively. I just wanted to be fit in. And I said, hey, love me. Look at what I'm doing for you. Please let me fit in. Let me say, I'm not a bad girl. I'm not one of those, you know. And I had my boutique in England. I worked in many boutiques in England, and then I opened my own in England. And that allowed me to work out more in there. And then I started training my clients in the boutique with tennis and
Oh, wow.
squash. So they
Okay.
would become and come and shop from me more often. And that's what we did until when I knew that I wanted to go to America, and I won't feel so much freedom there. But and that I wanted to have, and the weather was bugging me. So anyway, once I got my British passport, I moved to America, and so much fitness in there. And then in fitness, after maybe about 7 or 8 months, I came to America. I was just fitness became my job.
Right.
And as it became my job, and I was doing all of that I was doing, and it was like, I was at first, the first couple of years, I wasn't successful, but then after it, I became super successful. And then people are talking to me, and then I didn't even know 2007, I think this was my client, then it was psychologist, because, you know, you're doing a coaching on me. I said, what is that? And
Right.
and then when she explained it to me, so anyway, fast forward 2015, I enrolled with Tony Robbins and Chloe Medanis. And
Right.
2016, I became certified by them. But
Nice.
once I started getting heavily into yoga and meditation and
Right.
all of that, the more I realized I'm carrying this very heavy bag of cold anger and frustration. And I'm telling everybody else to drop it. When my shoulders are hurting for carrying it, how do I get rid of this?
How do you get rid of that
You
anger?
know, what do I do to get rid of this? And the more I work at, the better I got at it. And as I was telling it to my clients, and I got so much more drawn into yoga and with
Yeah.
so much meditation. And I cannot tell you, if it wasn't the yoga and if it wasn't the meditation, I got my black belt in Tae Kwan Do, and it helped me to pull me through. but nothing. I was an excellent tennis player in London. Nothing in the world helped me like yoga did. That's why today, part of my coaching and training with people is that I include yoga poses. I have a client who's a doctor. When she comes from home and we're talking, and she's 2 hours ahead of me, she's in Kansas City. And we talk, I just get her, I said, okay, I'm on the computer. I want you to go lie down on the ground, put your legs up. And I started doing things with her there. And she's exhausted. And then it just gives her so much more energy. And we continue. So I fit in so much breath work, meditation, yoga, sometimes mat Pilates, and sometimes with some people, I said, stand in the middle of the room, let's kick. I'm on Zoom and I get them to kick. And then I take them into the yoga. Then I take them into, okay, I want you to write down what you see, what you feel. Okay, now I want you to scream. Now I want you to, yeah. It's not one size fits all,
No, of course
you
not.
know, and you can always listen to people and talk to people. But how do you create a circumstances and a remedy for the person that is going through this ugly divorce?
Right.
Betrayal is not fun.
Nope.
I was betrayed, you were betrayed, and all of that. I wish I had someone like me with my knowledge when I was going through divorce in London, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and it wasn't available. And now that I deal with people, or people that they have different problems, and the divorce is okay, but now how do I deal with my child? What do I say to the kid?
That's
Because the
huge.
kids, it can
Yeah.
become really um, so much more traumatized with all of that, and then how do we deal with our children through all of that? So it has to be created with the individual.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yoga was the biggest thing in my life as well. Like I got into it quite young. I was really lucky that I got involved in yoga when I was only about 25.
Oh, lovely.
And it was really, I did my teacher training in Iyengar yoga around that age, and it became the anchor of my life for years. It got me through a couple of decades of really intense living with raising children and running a business, and
Hmm.
to stay regulated. It was just the anchor of my life. And I work with clients to use, I'm the same as you. Because the poses have an emotional effect. They have a psychological and
Absolutely.
emotional effect on you. And through them, you can start to embody a new version of yourself.
Correct.
And
Correct.
like it's a template, they're spiritual templates for an emotional state that you can aspire to, of
Right.
like
Mhm.
eagle, peace, like watchfulness, but still and watchful, or a mountain, like
Mhm.
unmovable, can't be shaken kind of thing. All of those sort of qualities, it's really powerful. That's so interesting that we've both used that with
Yeah, it's
for emotional
interesting that
regulation and for expansion of who you are. Like,
exactly. I was 36 years old when I started Iyengar yoga. When I just come a couple of years after I came to America, I started Iyengar yoga, and
my
after
favorite.
a year, I got introduced to martial arts. So I left. That was more appealing to me at that moment because I just wanted to
Well, you
jump
wanted
up
to
and
kick
down.
and punch.
And yeah, and I
Yeah,
was so angry, and I thought, let me hit
yeah,
that tennis ball there, but then I want to punch and kick and
yeah. I
break
get people
boards
kicking and punching too. That's good to do.
yeah,
I
and
get that
I
too.
wrecked my shoulder. I had a
Oh
hairline
yeah.
fracture on my shoulder. I had 7 knee surgeries because of how angrily I was kicking everything.
You were
And
using so
gave
much
them,
force.
yeah. And then he
Yeah.
gave me finally a year and a half ago, I ended up having my both knees replaced. And
Yes.
I had 9 surgeries on my knees, but um, it taught me massive lesson that all that I went through in life was not because God didn't love me, not because I was a bad kid, because there was a gift in it to find me, myself first today, the love for myself, learning that I do not need to be a pleaser. I can tell you no, thank you when I really mean no, thank you. And that's what I'm huge on teaching people. Don't say yes when you mean no, and don't say
And
no
in,
when you mean yes.
and in relationships,
Mhm.
that is crucial because
Correct.
people are all the time saying yes when they mean no, and no when they, they'd rather
There you
do
go.
something.
There you
But
go.
then they start to resent. Like, anger is one thing, and it's kind of more on the surface, but resentment, it goes a little deeper, and
Yeah,
it's poisonous over time.
absolutely.
It's toxic.
Absolutely.
It's so toxic. And I used to have so much resentment. It's taken a long time to work that resentment out. But that has got to be, it's just like anger and resentment. So would you say that boundaries is really like the fundamental thing in a relationship, or is it just that sense of yourself and you know who you are and you know what you want and you know what you don't want, and but you're not completely rigid, like you're willing to do a little bit of compromise, but not too much, because if you compromise too much, then you're not, how can you be in a real relationship, because you're not really being you.
I don't think there should be any compromise, number one.
None.
None.
I love that. No
No.
compromise.
I
Be you.
don't have, when you talk about boundaries, I don't have any boundaries at all. None whatsoever. I am the boundary.
You are the boundary. Yeah. Just who you are. It's like,
Yes,
this works for me, and this thing over here does not.
that's right. Exactly that, And it sounds, I'm looking at my hair, it's going
It sounds,
all directions.
first of all,
It
like some people
sounds
would be
very
repelled by
selfish.
that idea, right? They'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so difficult. Like, how could you be like that? That's so unwomanly, for one thing.
If you want to be a powerhouse lovingly, it's all a matter of love.
Right.
I have this thing, I have it here on my wall. Not only I say that to myself a few times a day, I make my clients put their name on it and read it as the third person. And then I make them change and put I on it and read it. And every single time, everybody cries.
What does it say?
Because when it says, I first call it as a she, and then you can see she or he stops criticizing and shaming herself. She or he begins honoring herself or himself because she or he finally understands her worth. Her worth is love, and love is the highest vibration. Now, when you change that she into Melanie, Melanie stops criticizing and shaming herself. Melanie begins honoring herself because Melanie finally understands Melanie's worth. Melanie's worth is love, and love is the highest vibration, and that is who Melanie is.
I love
Now
it.
take Melanie off and
Let me
put
see it.
I
Yeah.
and read that. I stop criticizing and shaming myself.
Well, when I think about those words, because if people are shaming and criticizing themselves, you can bet that they're doing it internally, but they're projecting that shaming and criticizing onto their spouse or their children, like hugely
Correct.
onto their children,
Mhm.
especially, but to their partner as well, and then that's going to tear your relationship apart.
That becomes toxic.
That becomes toxic. That builds resentment in the other person, and it doesn't, it just hurts feelings, and yeah, the resentment.
That's exactly what I was raised in,
Yeah,
the toxic environment.
yeah,
Exactly. And that's how I learned about it.
right.
No certification from anyone taught me that, except
No,
the agony of life.
you know it viscerally, like in your body, you
Correct.
feel that, and
Mhm. Mhm.
that's true wisdom and understanding. You can't get
Mhm.
that from a course. It doesn't matter how good the course is. You're never going to understand those things until you live
Mhm.
them. Okay, so this is one of your methods, because the big question that people often have, and we talked about this the other day, is how people can learn to love themselves so that they can be in loving relationship with others. And we were talking about the idea that the gap from self-hate and self-deprecation, self-criticism, self-denial, and all of that, like even to the point of self-harm, self-rejection, it just goes on and on, to go from that to like self-acceptance, self-love, self-appreciation, self-respect, self-confidence, on all of that, it's like it's a big gap.
It's a huge gap, and
It's
that's
a
why you
huge gap.
can't do it alone.
So we go do step by step through self-compassion
Mhm.
as the baseline foundation, and then self-forgiveness.
Mhm.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. I always say, if you want to do it properly, you need to have help. You need, like, you have a surgery on your knee and you want to walk and you're holding to the wall and door and go, you're holding to everywhere to go and you fall. You need to have the crutches. You need to have the walker to get you there. And then you gradually put it to the side until you can do it by yourself. And to get rid of that is a journey that we never traveled it before. So you need somebody, whenever you want to go to another country, you don't sit behind the plane and take it. You don't know where the hell you're going. You know, you need a pilot to lift that plane up and drop you up somewhere. Say, oh yeah, that's beautiful. You need to have that. That's why the coaches come in.
Oh, yes, yes. To show the way and then support and encourage and help people see the possibility in themselves. Because
Correct.
people can be they can start to get a really limited sense
Mm-hmm.
of what they're capable of, either like in their
Exactly.
own lives on their own, or in relationships. Like, oh, I don't deserve love, or I'll just put up with this because I'll never find anybody better than me.
Yeah.
You know, whatever they're doing. But that's a kind of a violence to both themselves and the partner if it's not a good connection, right? So, what attitudes, qualities, and behaviors do you think that people should bring into the relationships?
Positivity, respect, trust, but all of that is being built over time. It's not something that you can say, oh, yeah, I like you, fine. Then I'm going to love you and I'm going to respect you and I'm going to be positive to it. No, it's earned, is created, is a matter of creation. I have this fabulous mentor, and he says, go and get me a cup of love, and I give you $1 million check.
Right.
Love is something you create, he says. And the trust, the positivity, the respect is all being earned, is all being created, you know. And when you lose the trust, when you lose the love, when you lose that compassion, it's not for you to ignore it, it's for you to really take it seriously.
Right. Yes.
And do something about it. I posted about that last night, and I said, when you're cheated on and you dealing with and you're okay with it and you forgive it, just remember not to forget yourself in that, because this is going to happen again sooner or later.
That's what they say.
It's going to happen again.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think that one person showing up differently can transform a relationship, or does it have to be both people?
It always takes two to tango. One person can work on the relationship, like that comes in my relationship with my husband. My husband is the most amazing soul God has ever created. He was working on it. And I walked up to him and I said, we need to get divorced, because I wasn't willing to do the work. I wasn't willing to look at myself.
Right.
The wonderful man, I don't want to say a poor man, the wonderful man was doing everything that he could. But it was one way. It takes two to tango.
It sure does.
Two people get married, you know, and or two people are in a relationship. If one does all the work and the other one is busy going south, and the one that is working is going north, one day gives up and takes off.
That's yeah, it's not going to work over the long term. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Fari, how can people find you?
I have a website, and it's www.fari transformation, no space, one word,
Okay.
faritransformation.com.
Okay.
And uh, also my Facebook, Fari, I think it's transformation.
I think so
And
too.
then my my Instagram, Fari Transformation. And
Your LinkedIn is also, I
the
think,
LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on
yeah.
TikTok, definitely Fari Transformation on all of it. But the easiest, if they want to email me, Fari at Fari Transformation, or just go to my website. So you can check everything about me, testimonials, all of that. And that's, as I said, www.faritransformation.com. It's the answer to everything. And they
You
can,
can actually, once this is online, like it's live streaming now, but we'll shut it down in a minute, but it'll be up there. You could go and drop your website link into the
absolutely,
comments, right?
definitely, I'll do that.
Because then people can see that,
Mhm.
and they can click right on you in Facebook or wherever if they wanted to do that. So,
Perfect. That'd be lovely.
yeah. So is there anything that you think we haven't? Oh, yes. Repairing, repairing fractures and rekindling romance. I just wanted to touch on that quickly before we finish up.
Repairing, we'll say it again. I did.
Repairing fractures in relationships, like repairing.
Oh,
If
yeah,
there's been a
yeah.
big fight or a misunderstanding or, like a major transgression, like an affair, that's a whole other level of repairing fracture, but sort of let's go with more of a garden variety.
Uh-huh.
Fractures.
It always starts, yes, somebody else cheats on you. I get it. But number one is that you have to start forgiving yourself, not that other person. Forgive yourself.
Forgiving yourself is key.
Forgiving yourself is the key to open the doorway into the heaven of becoming in peace with yourself. For as long as you're keeping the grudges and the angry soul and anger and the frustration and depression, oh, what happened? Why did it happen that way? Why did they leave me? Why did she leave me? Why did he leave me? Why did I get this disease? Why did I lose my job? Why,
Or why
why?
did he get drunk again? And
Yeah,
maybe,
why did he get drunk? Why did he
like
beat me
that
up
kind
and
of
all
thing,
that?
right? Yeah, yeah.
There is so much forgiveness for ourselves. So we stop the whys. Why? Let that go and say, I forgive me. I love me for being in this, and I've gone through this so much. But now I need to move on. When you forgive yourself and you love yourself, then it allows you to look for a remedy to lift you off of this dirty ground that you're sitting on and lift you up and take you to the next level. Forgiveness is the answer. You
So
start from forgiving
repair the
yourself.
fracture. So
Absolutely.
you're saying that each partner needs to forgive themselves as opposed to forgiving each other? Or
If
forgiving
you
themselves
forgive
opens the door
yourself,
to forgiving each other?
if you forgive yourself, you've already forgiven the partner.
Okay,
But if
awesome.
you say to the partner, oh, I forgive you, you're busy dealing with somebody else out there and you forget about yourself. And I love what they say, look at this finger pointing at that one, and there's three fingers are pointing at me.
Oh,
And
that's
if
right.
this back
Yeah, yeah,
in, it's
yeah.
all on me. You get it?
Right,
So
yeah.
it's starting from us. But it's such a big, long, um, vast subject that it's
Oh,
hard to wrap it in a short time that we
yeah.
have.
Oh, a 30
That's
second
why,
soundbite, it's not really quite, yeah.
right. And it's such an individual that when they talk about their troubles and their problems, they say, okay, let's create a way for you to
Yeah.
heal you, to mend your wounds.
Right, and then maybe ask for your partner's support in that.
Or maybe
It's
not.
like we're all on our own healing journeys, but it's
Right.
good to have your partner understanding where you are with that and that you're respecting their healing journey and they're respecting your healing journey. And because everyone's healing journey is their own, you cannot heal your partner, and that is a huge mistake that
Never.
women make. I don't know if men do it as much. They might, of
Oh, they
thinking
do it.
and
Oh,
they
men do
thinking that
it
they
too.
can fix their partner, and that is a recipe for just intense frustration and resentment on both sides. Really,
Yeah,
it's
never
not
think
fun.
about you want to fix somebody else, fix yourself.
You got to fix yourself.
Yeah,
Yes. And so then in terms of rekindling romance, if people are feeling like the fire is out, what do we can, and then they start thinking maybe this isn't the right thing. And, how do people or like rekindle it or keep it burning?
if you want to rekindle, there are ways of doing it. If you want to fall in love with the person you've been for 15, 20, 30 years, there are ways of doing it. But do you want it to be
Huh.
rekindled or not, is the
Question
question.
number one.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
the question.
So you have to want it. And that's really important
Absolutely.
there because then you will find a way.
100%, yes.
Awesome. That's a great note to finish on. I love that. So I wanted to just say thank you so much, Fari, for
Thank
joining
you.
us tonight and sharing your wisdom. Just lovely to meet you. Oh, and I should acknowledge you since we were just talking about fire. You are, congratulations, you're a 2024 Woman on Fire. I was a
Oh, yeah.
2023
Thank
Woman on
you.
Fire. So
Oh,
welcome to
lovely.
the Woman on Fire Club.
Oh, that's so cool. Yes, I'm so
Super
excited.
to meet you. And to the viewers, please feel free to share your thoughts about this episode in the comments and share it with your friends who are looking to improve their relationships with themselves and the wonderful other people in their lives in 2024. Don't forget, you have the power to create meaningful, positive change in your life, and you don't have to go it alone. We have your back. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
So,
so much.
so wonderful. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.